Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
Good morning.
But we need the slides on the screen.
Yeah, just getting the slides.
Sorry. Can you put them on the... Oh yeah, great, thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ingrid. Thank you, everybody. Good morning, everyone. I'm very happy you made it here so early. I know it wasn't easy to wake up, and for us it wasn't also easy to get there, but I'm glad we're all here this early hour. My name is Anna Koens, and next to me is Gustavo Valeiros, and we would like to welcome you to our workshop.
Welcome, everyone. Good morning. Thanks for being here. So before we start, we would like to understand who is in this room. So I will ask you to raise your hand, and I'm going to ask you, who in here is a journalist? Okay. Who?
And are there any people working for the government? Okay.
Okay. Civil society, NGO?
Okay. Intergovernmental bodies?
And finally, any artists, filmmakers, activists? Okay. So you came to the right place. We will do some art today here.
You're all well aware that corruption in many of its forms is something that compromises and undermines environmental protection and climate action. And we want to talk about it, and we want to talk about environmental investigations. But instead of simply presenting you two cases of such journalistic investigations, we actually want you to explore it hands-on and see what are the superpowers that one needs for success of this kind of work.
So if you're a journalist, of course, you can use these superpowers in your investigations. But if you're not a journalist, this is even more important because we want you to understand the methods of investigative journalism and try to make you think how you can use these methods in your own professional role. So also you can contribute to investigative journalism by sharing data, spreading information, and joining efforts to fighting corruption. In this workshop, we'll explore real-world cases surrounding deforestation through these two case studies.
These investigations were funded by Journalismfund Europe and the Policy Center, which are known for their support for good quality journalism, in-depth journalism, and environmental stories in particular. This workshop is an experiment, and we really hope that you will enjoy the process and embrace it. Gustavo and I are your game masters for the next 1 hour and a half. You'll step into the shoes of various characters to uncover the truth behind deforestation and human rights abuses.
So let's dive into this journey where your decisions will shape the story, change the course of the events, reveal complexities and the powers behind environmental violations, deepening the environmental crisis. So your guides to this journey is going to be Lili Mendonça, who is a journalist specialized in forest investigations, and Ingrid Gerkama, who is a journalist as well and has a lot of experience working in Africa and the Balkans.
We also have the honor of having with us today two leading figures in the world of investigative journalism, Leila Bicakcic, Director for Center for Investigative Reporting, and Emilia Diaz-Struck, Executive Director of the Global Investigative Journalism Network.
Okay. So let me explain the rules of this game. Your objective is to create a methodology that will reveal the truth behind environmental destruction in Bosnia and Brazil. You will be divided in two groups, and then each group, using a set of special powers, will have to respond or will have to propose a way to find the villains. Here's the outline of what we will do.
So first, you need to collect the evidence, then analyze it, and eventually present it to our council. And the councils will judge your analysis based on a few criteria. Its depth, the use of character powers, how creative you were in collecting and connecting the evidence, how well the team collaborated, and how persuasive the result is overall.
Okay, so now we're going to start for real. We will start by dividing the groups. You have to respond this question, and then if you respond to one question, we'll move to one side or the other. So who in this room would rather run from a jaguar, or who in this room would rather fight and escape from a brown bear? You have to choose, a jaguar or a brown bear? A brown bear from Bosnia or a jaguar from the Amazon?
You actually have to get up.
Yeah, and you move there.
And
We need
choose
to-
the side. So
Here's the...
brown bear or jaguar? So
Okay, so we have the people running from the jaguar here. Maybe the people running from the brown bear here. All right, so let's see. Yeah, move. I think we have a good amount of people already here. And then can we do
Yeah.
the group to the side? So the brown bear group and the jaguar group.
Please come sit.
Yeah. And as soon as we start, you will have the chance of reviewing the rules again and using the cards. If you need more chairs.
yeah, I think, and maybe a few more people
Yeah, if
to
you
the
want
other side, if you want.
No, I think we're good. We're good.
Good?
Yeah, we have some more people there. If you're in the middle, you can join. Okay, please take your chair. We'll have one final step before we start. Everybody seated? We'll need you to be seated.
Yeah, I'm afraid everybody in the room except for staff has to choose side and sit down.
Yeah.
Follow the rules.
So the inspiration for this game was pretty much, none of us are really geekies here, but the inspiration was like these role-play games. So we'll need you to get in the mood of the game. So I'll ask you to do something a little bit awkward, but not much. So we'll ask you all to close your eyes now. Just close your eyes.
But
It's not gonna take much.
maybe do sit in the circle. You don't have to stay behind. I see 4 more chairs here. 1, 2, 3, 4. You joined the game.
So one of the game masters is the
Thank
bad
you.
cop, the other one is the good cop. I think we realize who is the one.
Yeah, you see, I'm the bad cop.
Okay, so let's close the eyes.
Now, we ask you to close your eyes and pay close attention to what you hear.
Honorable knights and peace warriors, noble gifted cavaliers, guardians of this earth, you are here to be the truth bearers.
Welcome to the secret meeting on the banks of the Neris River and its beautiful trees. You're now on a journey of the Anti-Corruption Fellowship.
Open your ears and listen not to a tale, but a true story of destruction and greed. Once these green kingdoms, prosperous and free, are now threatened by money and compulsion, fire, death, deforestation, and corruption.
Afraid and dismayed, you must not be. In this quest, you have superpowers. Take the wisdom of 2 guides. Go through dark roads, gorges, and mines. Seek the answer to the difficult questions.
Who are the forces of destruction you should find? Go. Ready to go. Let's start.
Please
Thank
open
you.
your eyes and the game starts.
Okay. We try. Do you think so? Okay. Let's start wrap up and come here, everyone. Yes. Mice. All right. We'll start by
Time is up.
asking Ingrid and Lily, actually, to quickly present what were the resources, just because then you all know the 6 pieces of evidence. Maybe we can start with the Kingdom of Bosnia, which were the
Wow.
evidence. So I'll ask the group from Brazil to pay special attention, because then we'll know what are the pieces. Pretty briefly.
Okay. So for this investigation, we used
Yes. Thank you so much for coming.
corporate data, of course, financial ownership, documents showing how wood processing companies were benefiting from public forestry concessions. We did interviews with experts, anti-corruption specialists, talked to whistleblowers, people working in the forestry sector, villagers, anyone who could tell us something. We also had leaked documents, court cases, companies of disgruntled competitors, financial reports, audit reports, satellite imagery, drone images, and of course we did freedom of information requests and spent a lot of time on the ground. I would say we're in Bosnia for about 2 months, in the forest, outside of the forest, in companies, being very unwanted. But that's what we did.
Lily? Just a piece of evidence.
Just the evidence. Okay, cool. I don't know if I'm after. All right. Right. Story about collagen. And collagen, it's a byproduct of the beef industry. I'll jump the characters and go to the envelope. So basically, we combined a bunch of different techniques for this story. We are talking about corporate data, which is basically any sort of information or any kind of data that we could find about the companies and their relationships and their connections. And this comes from filings with the SEC. We're talking about shareholder meetings minutes. We're talking about contracts that we could find that were leaked to us. Organizational charts, open source information, and all those things to find the links between the companies. Then exclusive interviews by companies that were a bit reluctant to talk to us, but maybe talked to us. But also we're talking about powerful companies with very, very powerful PR machines. We have also satellite imagery and data. So we're talking about high-resolution satellite imagery, analyzing deforestation on the ground in very specific areas that are related to the supply chain. We're talking about public records, land titles, cattle transfer data, so all the data that we could get. And export documents, so shipping logs and records, export certificates showing the movement of collagen out of Brazil. Also on the ground reporting with local sources, truck drivers, indigenous people, everyone who could help us paint the picture about what was going on the ground. And NGO reports giving us background information about what was going on the ground and how the meat industry is linked to all this environmental destruction and human rights violations.
Thank you.
Cool, this is it.
All right. Thank you, Lily. Thank you, Ingrid. So now we're going to listen to the groups. Maybe we can start with one of the groups of the Bosnia Kingdom, which was a bigger group. So
we had so many people who wanted to run from the brown bear, so we had to divide them in 3 groups. So that's who wants to go first?
No, they're going first, and then them.
Okay,
1,
cool.
2, 3.
Yes, so you have 2 or 3 minutes.
The microphone.
Yep, the microphone.
So
Come
just
on
before we start,
Yeah, come on stage.
A big round of applause for our Supreme Counselors of Investigators. They're the masters of investigations and they will give us the feedback.
Yes, well, thank you. Well, we started out our investigation into the shady logging business in Bosnia with a whistleblower who came to us, and he said, well, I have, I am in the possession I have some concerns regarding this situation. Let me just check. And he says, well, I have a letter of concern from several owners of logging companies who say, well, our funds have been going down recently. Our profits are almost entirely gone. Whereas we also know that at the same time, some very profitable private logging companies are increasing in their profits immensely in the past few days. And we started looking into that because this sounded interesting. And it turns out that all those private logging companies, when we looked them up, were all owned by local politicians, mostly mayors. After which, let me say, we started talking to some anti-corruption experts who explained to us that some of these suspicious wood concessions can be used to keep the ruling party in power, and that there was a lot of corruption involved in getting those logging deals, which made sense considering that we already figured out that all these logging companies that did make a profit were owned by local politicians. When looking into this a little further, we came across one major player, the mayor, now here translated on the screen as well, who was an owner of not one but 3 of this immensely profitable logging companies. Ridiculously profitable, considering that he made millions, whereas every publicly funded logging company made next to 0. We spoke to some local villagers who also informed us that they did indeed see that this specific logging company that they all knew was owned by the mayor was very active in the region. Not necessarily positive, according to environmentalists that we also spoke to. However, the local people seemed very happy with their mayor because he was such a thoughtful man. He knew all of their birthdays. He came personally over to their house, gave them lovely birthday presents every year, so they just kept voting him because he's such an incredibly lovely man. Now, from the data that we acquired, we realized that these private logging companies owned by politicians would continuously be awarded the rights for logging activities in the region. The improvements that they got, obviously given from higher up. Now, what we have in our evidence is that we can see that the privately owned logging companies by local political players get awarded the rights for logging immensely. So they profit. That is what we know. We also know that this is something that is that the offers are made from higher up. So on a national level, they know that on a local level, local politicians profit. Because they know this and they don't act, presumably they profit. But this, I have to say, is where our factual investigation stops, and we now have a hunch that its problem is much larger than simply a local level. So instead of presenting to you a final piece of evidence that says it all, ties it all together, and we found out that or even the president at the highest political level is involved, we request for you to prolong our investigation because we do feel that there is something way more serious at hand, even though what we do have is already a pretty major situation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Thank you. This group?
Let's do the round of Bosnia and then you comment.
All right, good morning, everyone.
Maybe keep the mic closer.
Oh, yeah. Good morning, everyone. So hopefully that's a bit better. So in terms of the areas that we decided to focus on, there were 3 angles that we decided to take. First of all, understanding that we had a whistleblower come to us, we needed to... First of all, understanding that we had a whistleblower come to us, wanting to essentially spill all the tea, understanding what's happening on the grounds, to essentially set things right within the community. There's certain companies within the local areas, especially owned by the mayor, that are profiting quite heavily from the potential illegal activities of deforestation. So we had to kind of check all of these things, understand the know-how. How are the processes actually going into this? So our first area that we decided to look into was understanding, well, expert opinion, taking on board the evidence of transcripts of expert interviews. This is essentially to understand all the specialist types of commentary, how suspicious wood concessions are essentially granted and used to gain these types of rights, to gain legal logging rights, essentially. Coming on from this, we eventually came to our hands some leaked documents. So these leaked documents were essentially a letter of 11 company owners raising concern of a corrupt wood deal specifically tied to the mayor of Sipovo. We were also able to cross-reference the annual financial records of public forestry agencies alongside understanding that certain private companies, mainly owned by politicians, are getting rich of the wood. So we could understand that there was a bit of bipolarity between certain public records and certain companies owned by politicians. Now, essentially, to bring it home, we found a piece of evidence of satellite imagery. Understanding the local area through information given by our villager and also wanting to help us, we used them as our eyes on the ground. By obtaining also satellite imagery information, we found out that there was quite a bit of areas isolated to the areas that were also linked to the places that we found where the politicians had their companies operating. So by using these three pieces of evidence, in summary, leaked documents, expert opinion interviews, alongside satellite imagery, and with the support of our whistleblower and villager, at least we were able to come to some high-level conclusion that it looked like the mayor is probably the one that's taking a look at understanding, well, I guess wanting to profit out of all of these areas. To him, he quoted to us that he doesn't necessarily see this industry as an issue, but the evidence that we do have is showing that it is an issue. So in that way, it gives quite a bit of a telltale sign of what's happening. Right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You want to come here? Just raise your voice.
Just as the storm arrives. Well, now for some completely alternative facts. We didn't follow the path of our colleagues. I was particularly impressed by my colleague from the Netherlands, who seems to have a real panache for storytelling. But it didn't seem to be based in any fact at all. That was the problem. So I think we overthought this a little bit, and I think we were actually looking for facts. We thought journalists actually want to know the facts before they're prepared to run the risk of litigation, if nothing else. Sorry, I should have said at the beginning, my name's Alan Bakrasi. I'm the Director of Investigations at the World Bank, which I didn't tell my colleagues here. Former prosecutor, and I spent time certainly in Africa. And we did do some work on illegal logging there, sort of investigating and prosecuting politicians connected to it. So I guess that gave us the insight to look for actual facts. And so I think we took a completely different point of view. We really sort of thought very hard as to how the whistleblower came into our equation. So we didn't come to the very smart conclusion that we just said at the outset, we were approached by a whistleblower. I think you suggested that, but you did, yeah. And now we should have followed that path. So we were a little bit not more creative, but we thought that there was a bit more challenge required here. It wasn't as simple as that, and of course, in reality, it never is. Certainly from my experience with the work that we do in the World Bank, we often look for people who are disaffected. So when we're looking at procurement bids, it's not the people who have won the contract, it's usually the companies who haven't. Because what reality tells you, what experience tells you, is that they have often been extorted for a bribe through public officials, and because they've probably paid the bribe, or have actually done the right thing and reported it, but often have paid the bribe and not received the contract, they're the ones who are going to give you the information, and they're going to point at the individual. But anyway, that wasn't the case here. So we started off with the investigative angle. A colleague here from the NGO Environment, excellent idea, to actually meet the villagers. Again, victims. The victims have a powerful story to tell. From a legal perspective, that gives you standing if you're going to appear before a court, if you're actually going to take the government on, or if you're going to take the companies on. So we thought that was an important starting point. And from the villagers, and obviously represented by some excellent NGOs and investigative journalists, we thought, excellent suggestion by my colleague here to the right, that we would probably do a little bit of a bait story, which to tell the story at that stage, because we knew those facts were largely correct. We would have done a little bit of analysis using some of the geolocational and satellite imagery that our colleagues here. So we had a certainty there that there were victims, and there's always a powerful story to tell there. And from our analysis, our overthinking, we thought that by just launching that as a story, that would already capture people's imaginations, and that's the value that journalists bring to the equation. That would then lead potentially to the whistleblower approaching us. And we felt that the whistleblower on the evidence, the scant evidence that we had, was probably connected actually to the administration, and possibly on the basis of one of the cards that we had from the bureaucrat, was somehow on the inside of the political system. Either had a heart or a conscience, or as usual with whistleblowers, they're often tainted by being sometimes culpable or involved. So you have a decision there, certainly for my time as a prosecutor, you have a real problem there as to how much weight you give to the evidence. And I assume it's the same for our friends in the investigation sort of circles. So that's how we thought the whistleblower came to us. So not so conveniently just rang us out of the blue, but that's the bait story did the trick. And this guy then gave us the inside track. And that's how we then started to use all the very clever tools that you've got here. And I'm really pleased to see that you're using Sayari, because we use it. It's very expensive, but it's a brilliant piece of OSINT tool. We then started to use freedom of information requests. Bosnia, as we know, is a country that does not have beneficial ownership data registries. It's not as sophisticated as that. We established that you have to pay to get to the information, and the information still doesn't give you the background to actually who the actual owners are. But that was the basis on which we started then to build the case. And then eventually, through just sheer hard determination and fantastic professional work from my colleagues, we got to the situation where we found that the mayor was running companies galore, was using the process of procurement because it's the easiest way to make money. Illegal logging has a problem in that it's illegal to start with, so there's a risk, and you also have to get rid of the other tools. So the procurement process is by far the biggest way to make money. And then eventually, we found that was funding the political party, 20 years in power, running out of money. The only resources available to them in the region was logging. And so that's how we got there.
Thank you very much.
So better we do the presentation, because that side is just one presentation, and then we have the final comments.
Yeah. Yes.
If you want to come forward.
I have the second mic.
Please go there. Don't be so hidden from our judges.
Sure.
That's good.
Hi, everyone. This is Ricardo and Roberto, and we are Brazilian investigative journalists who were doing on-the-ground work. As you know, the EU has just published a regulation on deforestation-free supply chains, and this is where our story began. We were looking on the ground in Brazil to increase accountability and transparency in the supply chain. And there we crossed a story that was quite new regarding collagen production. As you know, we have the beauty industry doing billions and billions of profits every year on that product. And what we didn't know is that this is actually linked to deforestation in Brazil. And our story started with a piece of evidence of export data linking the meat production and the cattle industry to collagen. But where did we go from there? For us, it was really important to get not only, let's say, raw data, but also look into what do locals say. So based on that, we firstly also went on the ground speaking with people, with indigenous people, with truck drivers who were inclined to have their voices heard from international or investigative journalists. But based from that as well, of course, for us, it was important not only to look in the ground, but also see who is involved in that. Who are the powerful players behind this? And there where we looked into corporate data, looking at beneficial ownership. Who are the owners behind those companies? How are they profiting from this business? And then, of course, then based on that, we wanted to show the scale, the mass of the impact. And there we looked also at the maps. What are the links here? And what is important for us to showcase to our audience? And not only to the regulation, but also to the customers. Do you want to support that industry that is causing those devastations? And I want to hand over to my dearest colleague for further insights into our investigation.
Thank you very much. So I think one factor which made us choose these different sources was that we wanted to show both like the global perspective, like using the imagery data, the export data, but also showing the local impact it has on people living there. So probably it hampers their grounds to even live and the environmental changes that happen to them. As Alan said, like it's a very powerful story to talk about like the locals. So this really grabs the attention, we guess, of our readers if we come up with that story for sure. Furthermore, we would have had the possibility also to interview some of the more powerful people involved, but we were a bit scared that this might lead to like some tipping off. And we know that the executive has like a very powerful PR machine, so they might come up with their defense before we even started to publish our story. So this was kind of important for us. And what we really wanted to prove is like a real connection between the company and the collagen, right? To really say, okay, this is where they get their beef from. And this is exactly where we see also the rainforest to like deforested, that there's a direct link.
And maybe just as a final account, just highlighting the first point, we really want to bring the big people accountable. I think this is something in the past where we focused a lot on just showcasing the impact, which I think is very important, but we need to take the next step and hold those people accountable. So that's it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I think like if you think about the longer impact that we want to have is like that you really understand that what you put in your face comes from Amazon, so you are really part of it, and probably put a lot of pressure on these companies, right, to come up with another sourcing of these, to come up probably with like some kind of like guarantee that they are not involved into deforestation, certification, whatever they need to do to get out of that PR debacle. Huh? Like,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Oh, you have one.
Thank you, everybody. I mean, I think that there is a potential to hire you all, because the investigative reporting is an interesting field, but lesser and lesser people are actually joining the profession simply because it's too dangerous. It doesn't bring much of fame, and yeah, the risks are too high compared to the actual impact, because we are living in a corruptive world more and more. So going back to the Bosnian case, all of you actually touched upon dilemmas and issues that investigative reporters are facing. All of you actually had angles that would typically be selected for investigation by investigative reporters. Couple of comments. First, this issue of going after the heads, the top, the national level, people who are benefiting from that particular local issue is always a strive, but you usually basically do, because you can't really link them because they are smarter than that, you usually squeeze out one by one on the local level, putting the pressure from the bottom up to make sure that people within the network, within the client's network, are actually tipping off the head of the operation. That's how you do. So you basically, all of these local stories could benefit to the final goal of finally revealing who is on the top of the organization. I actually liked your approach because that's, again, very typical journalistic approach of telling the human story. So putting the human face on an investigative stories. Investigative stories tend to be very technical because you have a lot of data, you have a lot of information there, you have a lot of legal documents that you're naming in the story, and then it helps for the readers, for the final audience, to put the human touch in it, to give the stories of the local people who are affected by the problem, because they will be able to connect with the readers and have the better impact. So definitely congratulate on that. All of the other evidences are extremely well read and well interpreted. I liked your approach in kind of questioning even the whistleblowers, because that is important. I mean, yes, whistleblowers are typically very good at heart. They're coming out with something that is very hurtful for them. But you have to think about the background of the story. Are they revealing out the story that could potentially be hiding up something they did? Not that they necessarily did, but you just have to keep the open mind to have an independent investigation. Otherwise, you're basically just telling somebody else's story. You are being used. And that's what you definitely want to avoid. So again, congratulate you all on all the aspects, because you did really good. And if you're looking for a job, think about me, please.
Yeah, we will need to have a council meeting to see if we extend the deadline, because we have a very short deadline now, so we'll comment on these investigations. Yeah, it's really amazing, and you're using actually a lot of the skills that we as investigative journalists use when we're doing a lot of the research and like trying to confirm, well, what kind of evidence do we have, and what do we do first? So, and I was... it's quite interesting because on the Brazilian case, like it was like, well, do we interview powerful people, like, and when do we interview them, like, because they can't tip off, like, so the key is like in which order you go with things. So you don't necessarily exclude them from your investigation, but you organize yourself and like and say, okay, we can't do that at the beginning because that will kill our story, that will put our colleagues in danger, and then we don't have an investigation. So what happens here? So I think it's key that you touch the danger of reaching out, but I would say that doesn't mean that you don't reach out. You reach out to these people later, and you plan after you have gathering a lot of evidence. The thing with talking local and then having satellite, I think that's also fascinating because you have different perspectives to the story. One, using satellite imagery allows you to see the scope, allows you to see what it looks like, the impact on the environment, and it also allows to find clues that then when you're going on the ground, you can see the victims, you can see how people are being affected by that. So you get like I would say the tree and the forest at the same time when you're looking at the satellite and at the humans. So, and export data, like I think I like that you have like this fact-based thing where you're looking at export data to start with, as well as beneficial ownership, so you can see who is behind it, but also like kind of follow the money by looking at export data. And I would add then find colleagues in the other countries outside Brazil who you could work with, and then continue expanding your investigation. But it's really impressive, and in just like less than 1 hour what you have achieved and the amazing story that you're pitching. So I think this is a very promising story, and like more time is needed, but then we'll publish it for sure. Like more work needs to be done. Thank you.
Well, thank you for the presentations and the comments of our Supreme Council, and thank you all for working hard and for the patience with us. We getting to an end. The only thing that we will do with 1 minute that we have, maybe 2, is that we're going to ask Lily and Ingrid to just show the final results of what they published, and then you can go to the links and read the story.
Right, really quickly, well done. I'm really, really impressed about your skills and how you figured everything out. The right answer is like, use everything that you have. So this is a story that we published. I was working with the Bureau of Investigative Journalism back then, and we, very collaborative newsroom. So we published with The Guardian this story about how collagen is linked to deforestation, human rights abuses. We also put in prime time on British television the story on ITV. And we also had a very, let me brag, cool strategy on social media. We produced an influencer type of video. We hired an actress to pretend she was a wellness influencer to tell the story. I just want to play this. Is that okay?
Can we have like 2 minutes more just to play? This is 30 seconds. It's okay?
Yeah, is that okay? Can you hit play, please? Could?
Collagen, collagen, collagen. The wonder product for skin, joints, and muscles. It might be good for your health, but what about the health of the planet? Like others, best-selling collagen brand Vital Protein sources grass-fed, pasture-raised bovine hide from Brazil. That means cow skins, by the way. Cows that eat grass. Their chief creative officer swears by it. But grass-fed doesn't mean sustainable, especially when talking about Brazil. The Bureau of Investigative Journalism dug into this murky industry and found vast deforestation and invasion of indigenous lands. Here comes the complex bit. Concentrate. Across Brazil, many indigenous people live in tropical forests and preserve these lush environments. But their land is under threat from farmers invading to deforest and raise cattle. Cows that eat grass. These cows get mixed up with ones from legit farms and sold to nearby abattoirs, many of which are owned by Brazil's biggest and controversial beef companies, JBS, Marfrig, and Minerva. Dead cow skins go to tanneries to de-hair and de-flesh, and then to collagen companies to turn into scoopable powder. But isn't it just a byproduct, you say? No, it's a big part of meat companies' income. So while being healthy is vital, so is the health of the planet.
It's just the companies saying things. We have to put it there, it's the law. We can move to Ingrid's.
All right. Thank you guys. I was really impressed as well. You did really well. You were totally right. The mayor was the villain in this story. Our story was published in Dutch, Belgium, France, and Bosnia, in 4 languages, in about 15 outlets, which was great. It was funded by Journalismfund Europe, and perhaps, I'm not going to play this video, but you will want to know what the mayor said when we finally did publish it. This is him. He, in fact, called one of my colleagues from Bosnia, and he said the most terrible things. I will not repeat to you here, but yeah, it's currently a court case. It's in investigation, what he said to her. And I would just like to say, this guy is still the mayor of Šipovo, even after publishing this story, and many other journalists in Bosnia have also written about him. So there is indeed much more work needs to be done, also by all of you in different capacities. But thank you for investigating with me today.
That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everybody. Please follow the work of environmental investigative journalism. Please try to take away some lessons from this workshop. I hope you enjoyed meeting other people, discovering their insights. Try to think what kind of data you can provide to investigative journalists sometimes if you come across. Try to think how you can use their investigations, and read all the stories published with the support of Journalismfund Europe and the Policy Center. Have a great day. Thank you very much.